Project 2 Task 1 has two parts, A and B. A is where you provide the physical evidence of developing a mentoring plan. This is the actual written plan itself. Task 1B requires that you brief and negotiate the plan with a mentee. That will be role-played or videoed and submitted as an observation so that your assessor can actually observe it. If you're attending face-to-face, then that briefing or negotiation of the plan will actually occur in your training sessions. Okay, so let's have a look at Task 1A, where you're required to develop a mentoring plan. That mentoring plan will then need to be implemented with your mentee. So it's a good idea to have a think about somebody in your workplace or a colleague that you need to undertake a minimum of 3 mentoring sessions with down the track to achieve an objective. Then create the mentoring plan around achieving that objective. We'll talk more about what's required for conducting those mentoring sessions a little bit later down the track, because that actually forms part of Task 2. But it's a good idea to think about it now, because there's no point creating a mentoring plan for somebody that you're actually not going to be able to undertake those mentoring sessions with. So in this instance, you'll be developing a mentoring plan and facilitating the mentoring relationship. That means having those or conducting those minimum of 3 mentoring sessions that I mentioned a minute ago. You'll then need to monitor the mentoring relationship. How's it going? Is it meeting the objectives? And also do a final report on the effectiveness of the mentoring. But let's focus now on Task 1A, which is developing that plan to get started. As it says here, the participant for your mentoring session may include, but is not limited to, a colleague that's maybe aspiring to move into a higher position, a co-worker who's making a formal application for a new job role, an apprentice or a trainee who's employed or undertaking a work placement, or a peer that will take over your role in the future. What you will need to submit for this is a fully completed plan, and we've provided a template to assist you to do so. Just remember, all parts of the plan must be completed for a satisfactory outcome. So let's go through the template together. The client would be the name of the organisation. The mentor is you. The mentee is the person that you're going to be mentoring. And you'll need to put a little bit of a description on what their characteristics are. Who are they? Where do they work? How long have they been there? What are some of their strengths? What are some of their weaknesses? What's their attitude, personality? Do they have any special needs? They're the kinds of things that you would put into this plan. Just remember, throughout your studies in completing the TAE22, you're actually developing documents that you would actually complete in a real work setting. So if you think about the information that you're putting in here, it might actually help somebody else who has to take over the mentoring sessions on your behalf if for some reason you're unable to fulfill them. So the more information you put in here, the better. We then have a mentoring overview. What is the scope of the mentoring? What's the topics? Where is it going to happen? Over what period of time? There's some of the things that you might put into the scope. The boundaries could be any kind of limitations that exist with regards to the mentoring. It's not a bad idea to actually set up some boundaries with your mentee so that they've got a solid understanding of what you're going to be able to assist them with, and also not overstep those boundaries as well. What is the purpose of the mentoring? What are the specific goals and expectations? And in this case, it's a good idea to write them as a SMART goal. By the end of this mentoring program, which is due to complete in 6 months' time, and you would say the specific date, the mentee will be able to, and make it a solid statement of what they'll be able to do, probably perform a task independently, perhaps. WHS issues in relation to this mentoring process. They might also, in this case, it may not just be physical safety, but there could be some aspects around psychological safety here too. So consider those. Mentoring strategy, how many sessions are you going to have over what period of time? Is it a mentoring program that's going to go for 3 months and you're going to have 6 mentoring sessions with them over that 3-month period? What types of resources are required for the mentoring? Think about rooms and locations, privacy and confidentiality, notepads, computers, access to maybe some physical resources. And what are some of the confidentiality guidelines? Often you develop a nice sensitive relationship with your mentee. We need to let them know that some things will be held in confidence and some things simply can't. So it's a good idea to actually let them know that that's the case. Organisational policies and procedures that relate to the mentoring agreement. You might have your own mentoring process in your workplace. If you're not sure, go and have a look. See what kind of documentation is required and what the expectations of your own organisation are with regards to policies and procedures. But at very least, please consider things like confidentiality and privacy, which we've just discussed, and code of conduct. And what are some of the legislative requirements that need to be adhered to in the mentoring process? So again, legislative means law. So think about any discrimination and maybe privacy and confidentiality and WHS. And there's a whole heap of other forms of legislation that you may have to abide by dependent upon your particular industry. From here, we'll move on and look at the mentor responsibilities. Being clear to let the mentee know what your responsibilities are. And in here, the mentee responsibilities. At very least, please put some things like attending the session on time, bring a notepad and pen, prepare for the session, make a list of questions before you come to the session. But there should be some other mentee responsibilities in there that you must be adding to as well. And some ground rules. What are some of the ground rules maybe for contacting, how you are required to contact your mentee between sessions? Maybe what some of the parameters are for them contacting you between sessions. And last but not least, your authorisation needs to go in here as well. The mentee name, mentor name, and dates and signatures. Please do not submit this assessment without those names, dates, and signatures in place, because it will lead to a resubmission. You will have to complete them and resubmit that assessment. And following that, a little bit of a mentor review. So you've now met with your mentee. What are some of the things that you've learnt? Maybe it's that they don't like receiving emails and they'd prefer for you to call them. Maybe you've set some activities or told them of some resources or referred them back to their supervisor on some things and encouraged them to talk with their supervisor or somebody else as part of this mentoring process. So just a little bit of a summary here of what the review from your discussions were. And again, this review helps somebody else if they've got to step in and take over on your behalf. Hope these tips have given you a little bit of a hand, and we look forward to receiving your assessment.